Hello, everybody. I'm hopping on today because I want to talk about the difference between symbols and real connection, real love, and how we are trained to want the symbols and we're not trained to even know what real love is. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes for people to hop on, and I am going to just acknowledge a few people in the beginning and not just stop all the way along because it's too interruptive. But if you're watching on the replay, please let me know by telling me where you're from, and please ask me any questions you want to. I promise I will answer every single one of them. So I'm going to get started. And again, the topic is about being able to tell the difference between symbols and reality. And let me tell you a story so you can understand what I'm talking about. One of my clients many years ago, I don't know, maybe 25 years ago, I don't know, was seeing me, and she was seeing another counselor at the same time. And her boyfriend at that time had cheated on her. She found out that he had cheated on her, quote unquote, whatever that means. He had had sex with somebody else or had some kind of sexual interaction with another woman. And she had gone to talk to this other counselor about it. And the other counselor, I said, well, what did she tell you to do? And she said, well, she told me to make him buy me a really expensive piece of jewelry. And I just was completely shocked and shook my head and said, you've got to be kidding me. That's the answer, is that you're supposed to get him to buy you an expensive piece of jewelry? And to me, that is the epitome of using symbols instead of facing the reality. The symbol of, I actually do love you, and here's a really expensive piece of jewelry to say that I'm sorry and to pay the consequence of my being a bad boy. I just thought, oh my gosh, that is not going to work. That is not going to do any good for anybody. And so I told her, that's not going to be it. You need to come in as a couple. You need to face the reality of why he feels compelled to do this other behavior, because this was a pattern for him before her. Why does he feel compelled to do that? What's the reality of the situation? It may be absolutely true that he loves you, but symbols are not going to make up for a painful past and a lot of painful patterns that he's bringing into the relationship. It's not going to make up for that. So you have to get to the root of the reality and deal with that reality. So you can see what I mean by people can't tell the difference sometimes between symbols and reality. So I'll give you another example, which is a happier example. Is one time I was complaining to my friend and spiritual teacher, Beth Green. If you want to look her up, it's theinnerrevolution.org. And I was complaining to her that my husband had not gotten me a birthday card. He'd sent me an e-card. And after I had told him explicitly that I really like birthday cards, and a nice message in it. And I was really upset about it and thought, that was so insensitive. It meant he didn't love me. And she said, no, that's not true. Let's ask, let's explore whether you feel loved by him. Excuse me, in general. She said, do you feel loved by him in general? And I said, yes, I do. Then she said, then don't make this card, don't let this symbol of the birthday card make you doubt whether he loves you or not. It's just a symbol. And that kind of blew my mind, because I had never thought of that before. I mean, that may be amazing that I'd never thought of it before, but at that time, I really wasn't that aware of this distinction between symbols and reality. And, this was, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago. And since then, I think, of course, since I gave it up and wasn't so dead set on getting that birthday card, he's given me every year multiple beautiful birthday cards, which I don't know, that's so ironic, but that's a whole other story we could go into. is once people don't feel pressured to do things, they often want to do them from the generosity of their heart. But nevertheless, I was making the birthday cards a symbol of his love instead of asking myself, do I feel really loved by this person? So let's go more into the whole issue of what are symbols, and are they reality? And one of the hugest symbols that I can think of is the engagement ring. Now, and I've heard this. Of course, I have one, which I really wanted at the time, and we checked in about it. We went back and forth about it. We actually got counseling about whether it was the right thing to do, but in general, people they don't bring any consciousness to it at all. They are completely brainwashed by I think it's the De Beers Company in South Africa. We have been completely brainwashed to believe that if you don't spend 3 months' salary on that engagement ring, then you're not being a good boyfriend or a good fiance or whatever. And again, it is completely about symbolism, isn't it? That amount doesn't make a bit of difference. You may not be able to afford to pay 1 week's worth of salary on an engagement ring. You guys, if you really come together and you really feel the love for each other, you may check in and get that you're not supposed to have an engagement ring at all. It doesn't really matter at all. It's just a symbol. And our society has gotten so invested in symbols. The symbol of success is a fancy car and a big house. And I'm so happy to see the trend in some people, anyway, moving away from that, moving into more minimalism and smaller houses and cars that you can pay off, all of that sort of thing. But there's still an incredible investment in the glitz and glamour and the celebrity, the Kim Kardashian and Kanye West of the world, making you feel like, what your husband really ought to give you for your birthday is a Lamborghini. And of course, if we stop and think about it for 5 seconds, you can see that those celebrity relationships so often are not the least bit successful because they're based on symbols and not based on the reality of love. So let's talk a little bit about, what is love? I've heard so much about our love languages, which I don't know. I don't abide by that either, because they can also be symbols. Somebody can do tons of chores around the house if your love language is acts of service. Your partner may do tons of chores around the house, and you may make that mean that they love you, but they may not. And we'll get into a little bit later how you can really evaluate that. Or if your other love language is affection and physical contact, your wife or husband may have sex with you every day, and you take that as meaning that you're really loved, but you don't necessarily know that. That person may be addicted to that orgasm or whatever and really just wants to, use you as a tranquilizer, and vice versa. And that's not necessarily love, even though it goes along with the affection acts, the affection love languages. Or what's another one? The acts of service, affection, I can't remember, I've got my notes here. Compliments, love that one. I don't know if that's actually one of the ones of the traditional love languages or not, but compliments, your partner again, or your whomever may say, oh my God, you're so beautiful, or you're so handsome, or you're such a great lover, or whatever kind of compliments they give you. But again, you can tell if it lands in your heart or not. So let's move into, how can you tell? Well, that's the main thing, I think, is that you can tell because you feel in your heart whether or not the person is genuine in their love for you. Do they honor you? Do they treat you as if you're precious? Do they support you when you're having, an emotional day or week or month or year? Do they support you? Do they intervene with you and say, honey, you seem off today. How can I support you to get some, get some clarity about what's going on so that you're not so reactive. All those things are examples and behaviors of real love. And in those behaviors, this person may not have sex with you every day. They may not have given you a wedding, a big diamond ring. They may not have cleaned the house the way you like or whatever. But if you genuinely feel precious to somebody, if you feel like they've got your back and they're really there for you, that is such a rare and special blessing and gift. And I'm just begging you, please don't be distracted by what our society says you have to have in terms of symbols of love and success. Really don't settle for any of that. Only go for what you intuitively, your heart, your spirit, your soul knows is real love and caring. And you can tell the difference. I've told my husband many times that when he's angry and or I'm angry at him or whatever, and he brings me flowers, it's like it irritates me because I don't want the flowers. They're just a symbol of something. I want the true heart connection and the clearing. Or, you can tell when somebody says, oh, that's a beautiful dress, but underneath that they are resenting you and you're resenting them and they're just trying to smooth it over and move through it. That's just a symbol. Don't even go there. Just give me the real thing. Give me the real thing. I want to live in a world where I have lots of real connections. I don't need the symbols. I do not need the symbols. I want the real connection. So my motto is from my heart to yours, and I love you all, and I really want to offer you the wisdom and the experience that I have. I realize I did not introduce myself. Again, I'm Helen Hillocks, intuitive counselor and spiritual coach, and I really will be seeing you very often, offering you these little gems of experience that I've had. And I hope you stay tuned, and I hope you give me lots of comments and loves and shares. And thank you so much for joining me today.